Hello and thank you for joining me for some micro soldering this morning. My name's Wayne from Bit Repairs, and today I'm going to be looking at a board that I started yesterday. This one is a Nintendo Switch and it came in for a straightforward HDMI port replacement. Unfortunately, as I took the port off, you can see on the stream here that the pads are missing. So I started, this was all a little bit of yesterday's work, this was, so all the strip down happened yesterday. The port came off yesterday. I called the customer, just let them know. They asked their customer if it was okay to proceed. They said yes. So here we are now. Basically, what I'm going to do is I've already started to remove, as you can see, the underfill from around the port. So what you have now is here you can see the bits where it's been scraped off all the way around there, the bits where I need to connect to. Then we're going to use some jumper wire. Then we're going to stick some more solder mask on it. We'll cure it, and then it's ready for the new port to go on then. So this is a more tricky repair really than you'd normally expect on a HDMI port. Basically, it's normally a 5-minute job. You whip the old one off, clean it all up, stick some fresh solder on, stick the new port on, job done. Not this one. This should probably take me the best part of about 20 minutes this, so let's get started. We will stick some flux on first. So what we want to do, I'm just going to tidy up the rest of this port first. So I'm going to tidy up where the old solder is. So let me get some wick. I'm going to wick all that away now. Let me get my nice big tip. There we go. Nice huge tip you can see on the camera there, just in the PIP view in the corner. Let me just check on the MacBook that this is all working. Yep, that's all okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wick off all of these bits around here, all the bits around this bit. I'm going to wick off around the front here. I'm trying to keep the view in the middle of the camera now. I noticed my daughter said to me yesterday that she was watching the video and she said you were out of shot some of the time. So this is me now attempting to keep it in shot. So that's a little bit cleaned up there. Let's turn the board over now. Let's clean this side up a little bit. Let's just get a bit more focus there. You can see that. So stick a bit more flux on. The board's not warm like it was yesterday because obviously I'd warmed it up. I'd usually try and do this as soon as I've got the board warmed up. I'd normally try and wick these pads off straight away. It makes the job much simpler because you've got that retained heat in the board. Now it's basically a cold board and I'm starting from scratch. So I just want to get rid of some of that old solder, put a little bit of new on there. Now I can get wicking again. So yeah, it's a bit fun this to be able to kind of see different repairs instead of just getting stuck with the same old repairs each day. But they do take a lot longer, unfortunately. This job, instead of taking the usual time, obviously is going to add another 10 or 15 minutes onto the repair time. Plus I'm doing a YouTube video on it, which doesn't help because I'm having to explain each step of the way. So that to me looks like it's all wicked and cleaned up now. There's a little bit more in that hole. These holes here, you need to make sure they're as clean as possible because when you're putting the new port on, if you've got solder in these holes, then it may not melt at the same time as the pads are melting, and then you're going to end up with a situation where... Why does this MacBook keep switching off? Oh, I know why. It's got no power cable in it. Right, let me just plug a power cable into there and then we're... There we go. That might stay on a bit better now. See, I'm still getting used to these streams. I really need to get everything sorted first. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that now. Still a little bit of solder inside that hole, but the other way I can get rid of that, I can use my my fine soldering tip. Let's just flick that one over. Just sometimes easier to get that into there, just to melt it away. So it's always handy to have multiple stations. There we go, I think I'm happy with that. Yeah, that's why it wouldn't wick away. It's basically just dirt inside that one there. Just dirty solder, so dirty flux, sorry, dirty burnt flux. So that's all done anyway. Let's give this board a bit of a clean up now, because it looks a bit of a mess. Nothing's going to stick to it if it's a bit of a mess. So what I recommend, every time you've done a bit of work on one of these boards, put some flux on there, get it cleaned up, get the old flux off there, make it look nice again. That way you're not having to clear off bulk of, you know, layer upon layer of burnt on flux. So you can see that now. Just get the other side. It's important that cleanliness on this, on these boards, on anything really. I mainly work on iPhone boards. Nintendo Switches are not really a common one for me to do. Do them when people ask me. They are listed on the website, but it's not something I kind of go, yeah, let's do that every day. So there we go, that's all cleaned up. All the holes are cleaned up now. So I'm going to put some more flux on here now, and now we're ready to lay some fresh solder. I'm going to use my tiny tip for this one. I'm going to get some solder, and all we're going to do, we're just going to tin these. So if you look close on this, let's get you zoomed in here. If you look really close, let's just get a little bit more on here. So we're looking to just scratch away at the surface. I've got rid of most of the underfill on it, sorry, most of the solder mask off it. So all we're looking to do now is just add a little layer on top. So we want a little bubble on top of it. See there, this one here, this is the VCC as you'd call it on an iPhone, the live going in. So this is snapped off from the one above it. So these two are supposed to be shorted out together, these two are. So we'll put some fresh solder on these other pads while we're here. So notice this pad's gone at the same time. Wasn't expecting this one to go. Need to get the solder mask off it. You can use your soldering iron if you really want. It's not recommended, it ruins the tip. But it's easy if you've just got one and you don't want to have to pick up your scalpel again. There we go. So that there now is, let me just clean it up again so you can see. If we have a quick look now at that, that should be all cleaned up there now. There we go. Now what you can see is the pads are all tinned now. So what we're going to do, we're just going to put on a little bit more flux. I mean, this really is a little tiny bit of flux. I know the gun that I use is absolutely horrifically huge. If you look at that, it's a monster. But it works, it does the job. You just squeeze the handle ever so slightly. So got this solder wire here now. Sorry, I've shown you the gun on that other camera, and you can't see the other camera. So show you on that one. That's the flux dispenser gun. That there is the flux. It's the jumper wire that I'm using. You can barely even see it. It's absolutely microscopic. A lot of this stuff comes from Union Repair. You have to wait for it to come in from China, but it really is the best stuff around that you can get. So that's a huge hint to people that are looking to get into this industry. Get your stuff stocked up from Union Repair. I am in no way affiliated with them. I simply buy stuff off them quite regular. So that's one jumper done. Going to run another jumper now. Okay, so you're just basically running the jumper and then snipping it with the scalpel. Okay. That's it really, one at a time. Okay, it's another one done. Okay, this is the long one now, where long is, well, actually probably around about 2 millimeters. There we go. That's all okay there now. More jumpers than I thought on this actually. Another one down here. Obviously this port is not going to be as strong as it was originally. You know, there's quite a lot of stuff missing off this, so it's the customer will be told that this port is not going to be as strong as before. You know, look after it, take care of it. What breaks these is usually when the kids are using it and they're either in bed or they're sat down with it and they've got it resting on the charger port. You know, these charger ports don't snap from, you know, general day-to-day plugging and unplugging. There's got to have been a shear force on it. So that shear force is usually when you're lying in bed, you've got the console resting on your chest or resting on your tummy while you're playing on it, and then that's the shear force, which is basically just pushing against the port. And then it just snaps, pulls off. Sometimes, you know, I mean, it can be pulled off a sideboard or something. Can be, you know, forcefully yanked off a board or off a table that it's on. But generally, you find that this kind of damage does happen from using it whilst it's plugged in. Okay, I think we're nearly there now. It's the last one. Okay. So we want these jumpers to be quite flush with the board. Okay. Oops. There we are. Right, let's have a little look at that closer. So there's one that I'm not sure about, which is the second from right there. That's a little bit, stands a little bit proud, that one. But we're going to pull this flux off anyway. So I'm sweeping down now because that's the direction that I've run all of my jumpers. I don't want to pull them all back off the board again. But the reason I have to try and get this all cleaned up is so that I can now put some solder mask on. So if I've got flux on the board and I try to put solder mask on, the solder mask is not going to stick very well to the board. So we just want to clean off all of this flux first. Hopefully the air compressor doesn't go off. But if you are going to be doing this professionally, I do recommend, instead of you having one of those compressed air guns, that you get a proper air compressor. So, I just noticed the chat down there. I'll just put hi, might as well. Let's see if there's anybody on. So let's just get rid of some of this, some of these bits off the board here. Okay, so board all cleaned up. Let's have a little look closer. That's there. Beautiful job. There's all the jumpers, all nicely in place. Gonna get some of my nice new tweezers now, just to get these last wispy bits away. I can't believe how expensive tweezers are, in all fairness. Like I said, I've just got all of this nice new fancy expensive equipment, so I'm trying to do as many videos as I can at the moment, just to kind of get myself a bit more known for YouTube videos. Spent so much of my time watching other people that I might as well contribute myself a little bit to it now. So what I'm going to do now, I've got a little bit of solder mask, so I've just put a little blob of solder mask, you can see, on a piece of paper. So if I just flick over to there, you can see solder mask on just a tiny blob. You really do not need much. Back to microscope view, and I'm going to get my scalpel now, and I'm going to put some solder mask on the tip of the scalpel, and then I am just going to use that just to dab a little bit on the board. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to make a little mess up here. Okay, because that is the solder mask that I'm going to use to spread around. You want this to be really thin. This really does need to be a thin layer of solder mask. So you'll notice, instead of me going and getting more solder mask off the paper, I'm using it from my little blob that I've made up in the corner here. Because I need such a small amount that you end up with too much otherwise. Okay, so these are all nearly covered now. Don't know how long we've been on this video for. People really think that these jobs are quite simple when they're when it comes to purchasing the service. They think that you get it done really quick. They reckon it's a bit of a scam, the amount that they get charged, some people, because of how long it should take, but really it does take a long time. It takes a long time, a lot of built-up skill. So you'll see how much solder mask I've put on the board there, and if I go back to camera 1 again, you can see, look at that, I've still got the majority of it left on there. So let's put the rest of that in the bin. I'm just going to get my UV curing lamp now. Get it plugged in. There we go. So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to move the microscope out of the way, flick you over to this camera, and we're just going to cure that solder mask. Almost there. So that's the solder mask curing. I'll do this probably twice now, and then you'll see that it's all nicely cured. We're ready then to put the new port on. What I have to do first though on the port is, instead of just putting a port on, you'll see there the ports come on, focus. It's supposed to autofocus this thing. Hold on, let's try zooming it in. There we go. So you'll see there that there's no solder on any of those pads there. So what I'm going to do, I'll zoom back out again, is you don't normally do this, but I'm going to tin. You don't normally do this when you're putting the port on new and you're not running jumpers. But when you're doing it and you've run jumpers, there's no solder actually on the jumper. So what you have to do is you have to tin the port instead. So once I've done this, I'm going to tin the port, just add some solder to the port. So I've put some flux on the port, and then we'll put some solder on it next, and then we can attach it to the board. Let me just see how long we've been now. 21 minutes now. I want to try and keep this under half an hour. So that's that done. We can see hopefully that that's cured now. Let me get the tweezers. Switch back to number 3. Okay, let's just test this. It should now be solid. Yep, solid that is. So what I'm going to do now with my scalpel is I'm just going to raise these up a little bit. Okay. Just want these raised up so that they easily get connection to the pin when it comes along. Obviously the pin is going to come straight on top of these. And it will naturally, see that one's just, doesn't matter about that one bending over, the pin will still catch it. And even if it doesn't catch it on that particular one, on this row, the outside row is not too bad. This outside row is okay, it's this inside row that's the big issue. Because the inside row, we can't see whether it's been soldered on or not when it's been done. So I'm going to get some solder now onto this port, and you'll be able to see now on the microscope view. Let me just zoom out there. Okay, I need to just lift up microscope a little bit more. It's just a little bit low there. Okay, so there's the port. As you can see, it's not tinned at all. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pre-tin all of these pads here. You don't have to do them all. You pretty much just have to do the ones that are not going to have solder on. Okay, they're all tin now. Okay, so turn that back around. I'm going to place the port. I'm going to place the port nicely. Now what's going to happen is this port needs to be off the So you notice what I'm using here, this little device. Go back to there. This little device here. It's called an eye pinch. You don't have to use that. All we're looking to do is lift the board up so that the charger port can drop down into the space. So there we are. So I'm going to put some flux on it again. Just on the back here. Put a little bit more flux on here actually underneath. Well and truly over the top with the flux. So, right, soldering station now. Okay, hot air, and literally what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the small nozzle off the end of my hot air. Airflow, turn my airflow down a little bit. I don't want too much airflow. So this is a JBC, JTSE hot air station. They are absolutely amazing things. So now we're just going to get some hot air on it. Just going to warm this board. Most important thing when you're doing hot air, keep the nozzle moving. Keep it moving, keep it moving. Don't leave it still. That's when things melt, that's when things go wrong. So you want to keep it moving, keep it flowing up and down, up and down, up and down, left to right, everywhere, circles, circle, circle, circles. So these ports are so prone to melting, it's unbelievable. They are absolutely so prone to melting, it's unreal. So I'm not pushing down on it yet. You might get a little bit of melting on the port right at the back here along this back edge. Some people prefer to do this from the underside, so that they can heat the board up from the underside. And that works as well. You know, it's a good solution. See, that's just dropped down there. I gave that a little dab. That's just dropped down into place. It's not quite ready yet though. It's not quite perfect. But now I'm going closer now with the port. Now I'm going in a bit closer because there's more pads I've got connected. You can see them. You can literally see them on the microscope starting to melt. You can see the pads start to melt as you go along. Okay, I'm going to hold one end of the board over here, and now I'm going to put some pressure on the port. Okay. Going to put some pressure on the port now so that it's sticking to the board. And I do believe that now should be done. So I'm going to move my hot air away. I'm still holding the pressure down on the board. Okay. Just check the back end of it. I'm going to make sure they've all taken. You can see all of those jumpers going perfectly underneath each pad. See, the other ones have taken. Can you see that on the video? There we are. So you can see each of those solder pads has taken. Okay. So what I do now is we come back to the port. We're going to just give these bigger ones, a nudge. We're just going to make sure that they are thoroughly attached. If these are thoroughly attached, I have confidence that the ones underneath, see these here? I can see that the wire is moving when I nudge it. So I know that that wire now is attached to there. Right, so now from the underside, now we're just going to rejoin each of these mounting points. Fortunately, they've not been pulled off the board. So let's get the big soldering station on it. Okay, and we're just gonna straight in, fill those holes up with solder, fill that hole up with solder, fill that one up with solder. Okay, and finally we're going to fill this one up with solder. Okay, just going to check on the other side of the board now, make sure that the solder has flowed through. You can see each of those is full of solder. So each of those holes that was there before, we're going to just clean it up. One quick clean up. Just going to rub over it all with some isopropyl. Remember, tidy, tidy all the time. Just keep it all tidy. Okay. And that is one beautiful looking HDMI port applied with several jumpers. Let me just check the port inside. Port inside looks perfect. So if you use too much hot air, that port will just melt, which is not good. So that's all done. Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to do one more quick check. Where is the USB-C? So I'm just going to stick the USB-C into it now. Make sure we're pulling current. Okay. Right. So we're now pulling on there. We can see it was pulling 1.6 amps. So if I just plug a battery into that, we should get a full draw off it. So I've got a test battery that I use here. Let's flick over to this view. So we just got a test battery that's out of housing. Like I say, I don't do this all the time, but I do it enough that I've got test components to plug in. Okay. I'm just going to plug this in now. Test in, pull in 0.3. Wait for it to pull a bit more. This isn't a power delivery charger, this one, so it's not going to pull the full current because it's not the one that will do power delivery to the port, but it's enough to test. So there we are, pulling current. I don't know whether you can see that on the ammeter. You should be able to see that. So there we are. That is fixed. That is all done. We'll get that reassembled. I won't bore you with the reassembly in the video because it's gone on too long as it is. So there you go. Thanks for joining me. Like I say, my name's Wayne, Bit Repairs. You can have a look on the website, which is www.bitrepairs.com. That's BIT repairs.com. We do all sorts of micro soldering repairs, mainly iPhones, but we can do Nintendo Switches, we can do Xboxes, PS4 HDMI ports, iPads, do some work on laptops and that, but it's mainly iPhones, that I work on day to day. Hopefully tomorrow will be another iPhone video. Really haven't decided yet, it just depends on what comes in the morning. So thanks for watching, and that's me signing out. Goodbye and have a good day.